Well, Roger, here we go.
Okay.
January 2023. Hi, Trilogy members. You've got Sarah here, live and in person from our Scottsdale offices. And then, of course, we have Dr. Roger Landry, who's going to be doing our presentation today on the why of longevity, which I think is a really fabulous topic for us to kick off the year. For those of you that have joined us in the past, you know how we work. Everybody is muted, and we have over 200 members registered today. So we are super, super excited for all of you that have found this topic so very interesting as we think about intentional living in 2023. So I gave a little bit of a hint into I don't make New Year's resolutions personally, Roger, and I don't know how many people do. But I was really thoughtful at the end of last year and kind of analyzing how my life was going and what my stressors were and what I wanted to do more of this year and what I wanted to do, frankly, less of. So I really have been leaning into being intentional. Self-care is on my priority list, more time with my family. Listening attentively is on my list. So I don't know how many times I can sit in meetings and I'm maybe day drifting thinking about something else. So I'm trying to be very intentional in that listening and making sure that I ask really good questions. So, and then along with listening, I'm also working on responding very thoughtfully. So that's kind of, as I peel that onion of why, that's some of the things that I've been thinking about. So a couple of reminders for our members as we're all getting dialed in. Remember that today's session is being recorded, and it will be posted for all of our members on MTL in the news section sometime next week. And I've received several emails from individual members who aren't able to make it today. So I'll be sending that link directly to them. But we record each and every time because it's really great information to go back and listen to. And then for those of you that may be new to the way that we handle our virtual live streams with Dr. Landry, there is a Q&A and a chat feature on Teams. So if you go in and put in your questions there, Dr. Landry has a colleague, Kai, who's located out in Denver, Colorado area, and she is the puppet behind the screens making all of this work. And she will, yeah, absolutely. She will be monitoring your questions. And then toward the end of the presentation, we'll open it for Q&A. So Dr. Landry, I'm going to go off camera and mute my microphone, but listen attentively so that I have questions at the end as well. So take it away.
Thank you for what you shared with us. I think you're a rock star in this whole area of change and wanting to do that. So thank you. That was a nice little sharing that you did.
Well, thanks, Dr. Landry. We'll see you in a few minutes.
You will indeed. Well, welcome, everybody. I am thrilled to be here once again. Glad to be here in 2023. And it is, Sarah and I and our team have been talking about where we want this year to go. And I'm going to share that with you. So as you know, that last year we were here. This was the slide from last year in 2022. And we were going to talk about the road ahead, of course. But what we really wanted to focus on was the science behind well-being and healthy longevity and the importance of lifestyle choices and a focus upon each component, the holistic lifestyle. And don't worry if you didn't attend. We recorded each one. And we'll be repeating many of the things because they're so important and so basic to achieving healthy longevity that you will be hearing them. So no need to fret if you didn't make them, but I hope you did. In fact, here is a little review. So in looking at the pillars, the 5 pillars, the Trilogy Blue Star pillars of well-being, these are major lifestyle characteristics or components that we all have to pay attention to if indeed we're going to experience a healthy longevity and well-being. And fitness, of course, always comes first. It's what we tend to focus at many times at the expense of the others, which we don't want to happen. But during last year's session, we focused on this in particular for one session, and we talked about how sitting is the new smoking. They've actually done the research and calculated all the risks, and this is indeed the case. Smoking a half pack of cigarettes a day is less, I don't want to put it that way. Sitting is more risky to our health and well-being as we age than smoking. It's more risky. And that movement is the absolute foundation. You know, we talk about exercise. Exercise is great, but what we really need as humans is just, I don't mean just, I mean as a core, movement. So a lifestyle that involves a lot of movement. Going to the gym and using the facilities that are available to you with Trilogy, that's fantastic. And we set aside exercise. But we also know that if someone not just once again goes and works out for an hour or two and then spends most of the rest of the day sitting, that there still is a risk there. So physical, we know, is a major component in order to navigate the world. The other pillar, the next pillar, was emotional confidence. Now, Trilogy, of course, defines it as being comfortable with ourselves and comfortable with others being themselves. And that's an excellent one. But we also added to that the whole concept of emotional intelligence. And that's the ability to perceive our own emotions, to perceive and to use our emotions to understand them and manage them in a way that is constructive to our relationship with others and to our very success. And it also involves being able to assess the emotions of others that we're dealing with. So emotional intelligence is a major factor. And the other one we spoke about with this pillar was mindset. The fact that these tend to be habitual mental attitudes that we have, and they can be fixed, which really gets us into a lot of trouble, or growth, where we're open to other ideas, we're open to the other way other people live, and we're not so constrained in our own views with a fixed mindset that we can't allow for anything else to be there. And it's either this way or my way or the highway, so to speak. Not a good thing in order to achieve healthy longevity. Of course, the major pillar is intellectual enrichment. And we learned this last year, we had a session focused that this concept of the ability of the brain, the lifelong ability of the brain to rewire itself in response to sickness or injury or what we want it to do. That's called neuroplasticity, and it makes us the architects of our own brain. And that is a very optimistic, a little daunting, of course. How do you do it? But it's optimistic in that we needn't feel like victims, as we mostly do when we come to cognitive ability and cognitive decline. And so we did learn that in order to experience neuroplasticity and have it working for us to grow new neural pathways, we need to be moving to get blood and nutrients to our brain, and we need to try new things. And when we do that, there are studies very strongly showing that we can forestall or even prevent cognitive decline. Sometimes, even when our brains don't look so good on a brain scan, we can live totally normal lives. Very, very optimistic. Spiritual well-being, of course, we cannot ignore. It is about our meaning, and we're going to be speaking about that today a lot, our why. And this is a very personal thing, and it evolves over time. But without purpose, it's hard to get out of bed. Never mind to achieve the change that you need or to seek the lifestyle that is going to result in a more healthy experience. And lastly was social connection. Not last because it's least, last because it is one of the pillars and we could not ignore it. There is no question, ladies and gentlemen, that even though people can be annoying and they can hurt us and we have maybe had some bad experiences, we need each other. We are better together. Because isolation and loneliness, those are very, very powerful factors for negative effects. And in response to that, countries like Canada and Britain, Australia have developed ministries of loneliness because it is so destructive, they see, and results in so much in medical care costs, as well as lower quality of lives, that this is something that as we age, we really need to pay attention to. Living where you do, making the decision to live where you are, you have made a major step forward. And this is about encouraging you to take full advantage of where you live and to nurture relationships, because we are social creatures, and without it, we are at risk for all the major players: dementia, heart disease, cancer, all of them. Higher risk when we are not connected to others. And we find that even that our immune system responds to social connection, negatively if we don't have it, and positively if we do. So those are the five pillars, and they are extremely important. And so it's no wonder that Trilogy and Blue Star put such impetus on them. And we totally agree. Kai and I, where we are with Masterpiece, totally focused on this holistic lifestyle. And when I saw this, I was thinking, there was a movie, 2001, Kevin Kline, Kristen Scott Thomas, and it was called Life as a House. I found it one of the most memorable and moving movies that I have ever seen. It's very picturesque. It's basically a man building a house as a symbol of his life's purpose, and in order to reconcile with his son, which has not been going well. And he just see it as a crowning portion of his life, and it is extremely moving. But I thought it was an excellent analogy for what we're trying to do, where our house is healthy longevity. So last year, 2002, we explored the science, the data, the research on the pillars, and those things that are so important to our lifestyle and aging well. And so we laid down the pillars that you see, and the house, imagine the house that's healthy longevity. That's what we want to achieve. And so, as with anything, there has to be a foundation on which we start. And that was what we did last year. And again, we will be, you can again see the recordings, and we will be reviewing that with almost everything we say, because it is so fundamental, even as we move forward. And so now we want to talk about the how. Okay, we have the foundation. We know that lifestyle is the most important thing for achieving a healthy longevity and well-being as we age. And up to 70% is determined by those choices. Genes, 30 at best, and as we age, 30%, even less than 30%. And so we know that lifestyle is it. We know that it's really up to us. And we've explored the science behind that. If we needed convincing, we know now that paying attention to a holistic lifestyle is how it gets us to where we want to go relative to our health. And it is we're going to devote the whole year to exploring the how of healthy longevity. So if last year was the science and building the foundation, this year is the how. So what we perceive with the presentations that we will have, and with the articles I'll be writing, and you working with your team there at your community, the Blue Star community, that we're going to approach this in a way that is most likely to be successful, and that is stepwise, taking small steps. And we'll be talking about that again as we did last year, because that is where the success is. But it does require, even before we talk about the how, is this, to review that, as I've already said, healthy longevity. What is it? It's basically this dotted line, whereas the shaded area is how most people still age in this country. Because we have the technology to keep people alive, we usually die of chronic diseases, which by definition can last a very long time. And so we can be decades of declining, expensive, and very low quality of life. But we don't We don't have to, and we know that it is very achievable to have a this dotted line experience, which basically is healthy longevity. It is about staying at high function longer and longer. Now we know life's going to throw us curveballs, right? That's what that little dip is, and we've talked about that. And COVID was a curveball for the whole species, and the ability to bounce back, to weather those, really depends upon all of those lifestyle characteristics, the five pillars, the holistic lifestyle, and also it depends upon resilience, which is basically what you get when you pay attention to all the holistic lifestyle factors. And you develop a resilience which allows you to take life's curveballs, bang, and they can put you back on your heels, even knock you down. But whether you're going to get up or whether you're going to resume where you were, get back there, or at least get back as much as you can so that you can move on at a high level of function rather than continually decline. And remember the public health term for this endpoint that's vertical, the dotted line that's vertical, and healthy longevity is compression of morbidity. Morbidity is when we're sick and impaired, and we want to compress that time. So to stay at very high function until our time comes, and that's not going to be the decades that the shaded graph is. It's going to be a much shorter time. And I don't know anyone who doesn't want that. And so that's what we're looking for and talking about with healthy longevity. Okay, so this is going to be about the how. But this presentation is about addressing some of the most fundamental questions that we need to ask ourselves before we embark on a plan and the how to achieve healthy longevity. So, what are they? Why do I want this? Now, when you think about a healthy longevity, it says, Doc, what do you mean? Why do I want it? I want to be healthy when I'm older. Of course. Why? Each person is different. Each person wants to be healthy for different reasons. I mean, fundamentally, we all want to be healthy and age well, but it can be the specific reasons can be very different. And why is this important? This is important because the going gets rough, right? Like New Year's resolutions don't last till February, or things happen. And what keeps you going is your why. And it's very important that we find out what that why is. And we need to know where we are now. What's our starting point? At what level are our components now? The physical, the intellectual, social, emotional confidence. So yeah, all that, the spiritual. Where are we? Because again, these are the areas we all need to address. And if one is particularly lacking, we know that that's a part of our how. That's a part of what we need to pay attention to in order to get where we want to go. Another question is, how do I improve and grow? And that's about the how. That's what we're going to be talking about this whole year. And then how will I know that I'm improving? Well, we'll be discussing each one of these a little more detail, right after this. But there are several ways you can do it, but it is a very important thing in order to. Well, we all know that if we're doing something, we want to make sure that it's working for us, right? That this is a positive thing. It's not isolating us. It's not causing us financial difficulties. It's not putting us in danger. It's not making us unhealthy. We want to know that it's working for us and that we are improving. So these are four critical areas that we have to address. So first off, of those four questions, it was why. So this is your first assignment, folks. What is your why? So let me give you an example. We had a woman who came to Kai and I, and she wanted to exercise more. And we said, well, why? And she said, well, I want to be stronger. And we said, why? And she said, well, I want to be able to, visit and everything. Why? I want to get down on the floor with my grandkids and be able to get up. Now, there's a why. And when you take all the layers off that can cloud it, it becomes very clear. And this becomes fuel for your journey through the how to achieve healthy longevity. And so it's almost meaningless to pursue the how without knowing the why. And so this is your assignment. So I want you to be like some very curious child. You've all been with them, and ask yourself, what do you want? Why? 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 Keep asking yourself why until you get to the core, and you'll know when you're there. And that why is going to propel you through the year, through the years, and on into a higher function for as long as possible. Now, most people, you probably heard this from Sarah. I know she talks about this. Most people, when they're looking for change, they start at the what, the outside there. I want to lose weight. I want to be a better person, whatever. And without exploring the why, it becomes more difficult to achieve that what. And the how can change depending upon what the why is. You may know what you want, but how you get there can be very dependent upon your motivation and other things that will come from exploring that question. Now, Simon Sinek he's an organizational consultant. He's a motivational speaker, and he talks about this all the time, how people start at the what rather than the why. There's a great book from Atul Gawande, Being Mortal. You maybe have read it. And it explores the medical system and how we treat people in their latter stages of their life. And he proposes that we often assume what people want. They want us to do anything medically we can to keep them alive. And he, on the other hand, wants to ask his patients, why? What is your why? What is most important to you? And so he can get answers to that help the medical people focus on achieving what that is. Whatever it is, it may be to be able to be with grandchildren, or one gentleman said, I just want to watch football, and that, okay, whatever it is, but it's his why. And anyway, it allowed the medical people to focus in on what was most important to that person, because again, it is the core, it is the fuel, as I say, of success in changing and being healthy and reaching healthy longevity. I was a candidate for an ankle replacement. I may have told you last year, which I had several years ago. But when I went to see the surgeon, that's what he asked me. He said, why do you want this? I said, at first I said, what's wrong with this guy? No, I said, well, I don't want it to hurt anymore. Well, why? And he said, and I said, well, I'd like to be able to do more. Well, why? And so it ended up, he explored what I wanted my life to be after this ankle. He wanted to make sure I didn't have any undue crazy expectations that were not good. And he wanted to make sure that my expectations were in line with what he was going to be able to deliver, and that it was consistent with the longest functionality of that ankle, that what he was going to put in, to make sure that indeed I wasn't going to destroy it in the first year or two by doing something that was not fitting. Excuse me. So the why is absolutely critical. It's not something we can ignore. So on this presentation, I'd like to have you drill down on your why. Only you can do it. I'm going to help you with maybe some questions that may be of value to you, but it is definitely all yours. It is for yours to do. And again, it's just armchair time, really, but I think it's an introspective journey that will be very valuable to you and could be very revealing. So I'm going to propose some questions, and there are others, but these questions are designed to have you explore your own why. You're here because you'd like to have a healthy longevity. You live in Trilogy, work with Blue Star in order to have a healthy longevity. I'm going to take a drink here a second. Excuse me. That's why you're here. And but what is the real reason, the core? So what does your bucket list look like? Exploring that bucket list, you may be able to find a why. It may lead to your why. It may get you closer to your why. Because these things are important to you. They're things that you want to do. And therefore, the ability to do them is tied to physical ability. It's tied to intellectual ability. It's tied frequently to social ability. You want to travel with someone else if it's travel, and so whatever it is, you can determine what aspects of me I need to be at their best or as best as I can make them in order for me to accomplish this. You want to skydive? Well, that requires some flexibility, some strength, that sort of thing. So that you see what I mean. So to ask ourselves, what does my life look like in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years? And this is, I hope, looking at it from a positive standpoint, not a negative one. Oh, I'm going to be all declining and impaired and all this. Well, that's not a good start. That's a kind of a negative mindset. And and those who have a positive outlook tend to live 7.5 years longer, and they tend to be uh, uh, much more likely to achieve those things. So um, let's explore another one. Kai, you're sending me messages here, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to hear me, that sort of thing. And we got a thumbs up, Kai?
Yes, there's just some person that couldn't hear you, so I'm just working with her to check her settings.
I see. Thank you, Kai. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a general thing. Thanks a lot. So, what do I want my last year, month, week, or life to be? And that, has to do with that compression of morbidity for most people. But really, is it one where we want to be functional, cognitively astute, even though we may have a terminal disease? And again, it can be as much as a year, or even more than a year. What do you want that last part of your particular life's journey to be? Because again, I think that can help you understand why you want it and what you need in order to achieve it. Now, what do I want my family and friends to experience? When someone is terminally ill or very seriously ill, that eventually leads to that, but can go on for a while, families suffer with that. And I know most of us, this is something most people I deal with, it is their worst fear that they become a burden, or that their terminal phase of life is it actually detracts from the memory that people will have of them, or it makes life difficult for them. And that, I know most of us want that. So as we think about those things, I just read about a lady who was 97 and died in her sleep. Sad, but how wonderful is that for not only for her, but for her family, for everyone. How do you want to be remembered? Cranky, requiring all this help, not be engaged in life, or someone who's adventurous or made people laugh. How do you want to be remembered? And going along with that, what does you want your eulogy to say? I mean, this is when someone gets up there who knew you, family, friend, whatever, they're going to talk about you, and hopefully they're going to talk about you in a nice way. But what sort of things do you want to have as raw material for this eulogy that they're going to say, given that it's going to be truthful? So, I'm you don't want someone to just lionize you without any real basis or to make things up. You want someone to be able to talk about your life. You were proud of it, and it's something that your family and others can be proud of having known you. So again, these are just ways that we can explore the why. And remember, just keep asking why. You may say, I want to be healthy when I'm older. Why? And that core, again, is critically important as the fuel to get you through the times that may be a little more challenging and we might usually quit or, just start to get distracted with other things. So let's go through these 4 questions that I had asked previously and explore them a little bit more. Why do I want this? Where am I now? So this is the second one. We've explored the first. Here's the second one. Where am I now? This is a matter of doing an inventory, an objective, truthful inventory of where you are with the 5 pillars and where you are after you explore your why. If that's my why, and this is why I want to achieve this, where am I now? What skills do I have now? At what level am I with social connection, with physical, with intellectual, with all of them? And so that's a critical point, a jumping off point, because it allows you to explore and focus on some areas where you probably need a little bit more in order to be holistically powerful in order to explore your journey, in order to explore healthy longevity. It can be difficult doing an inventory, and you may have to enlist the help of some people who are very frank about you and will tell you the truth with love. But it's a journey that's very valuable. It'll come with exploring your why, but also where am I now? I mean, am I a social person? How do I believe my cognitive abilities are? How physical am I? How strong, flexible? How am I certain? Do I have a meaning and a purpose, a why that is strong? It's going to get me through everything. Emotionally, am I aware of my emotions, able to manage them, and also to work with others? And so we have ways that can measure this with some of the people we work with, but I think most people can do an inventory with a little help, maybe from others. So how do I improve, grow? Well, that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of this year. Sorry about that. I'm recovering from a gift my grandkids gave me over the holidays. So how do I improve is what we're going to be doing all of this year. And we're going to be speaking the next time about 10 tips, the practical tips to explore, again, how you can get to where you want to go. But one of the parts of the how that I don't want you to forget, we discussed this a lot last year, and this is about an approach to change that we get from the Japanese, which allows us to 100% to be successful. We just have to be patient because it's doing things in small steps. And when we do them in small steps, even ridiculously small steps, we achieve that change and it's durable. Namely, when we make the change, we don't go back to where we were before in a month or so. We're able to make change that's going to keep us on track, keep us growing. And this is called Kaizen. And it avoids a thing that we inherited from our ancestors in our brain, in a fear center called the amygdala. We can talk about it more, but basically by doing it in small steps, we can achieve success. We have to be patient. That's what it requires, being patient.
Hey, Roger, I just thought I'd give you a little break if you wanted one, take some water, but I just love that Kaizen approach, and I think it's so powerful and such a good timing of the year, right? This is a time of year everyone wants to make those big, big goals and really can't think of how to break it down, or you went back to the why. Sometimes I set myself a goal, which I think is the Kaizen goal, and I'm going to do this, and a week goes by and I haven't done it. And I think it's important to then ask that why question again. Why am I not getting this done? And I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she wasn't trying to give me advice, but she did, and it made sense that I wasn't ready to take that big of a step, and I had to break it down more. So I just think that's powerful, and like you said, the stress response, that to not beat myself up, to just question, like, why am I not making this small step that I think is a small step, and maybe it could be broken down more. So I know you're moving on, but I just it just really, I think, is such a powerful philosophy.
Thank you, Kai. See, when you have support, you can do things that you couldn't do otherwise. Thank you, Kai. I needed that break. Thank you. I love the team. Love Kai. So this Kaizen approach, as Kai says, starts with why. What a surprise! And again, it's small steps. So what is it that I want, and what's the smallest thing I can do towards getting there? The smallest thing, not the biggest, the smallest. And that's the change. That's your goal. It's like steps, like we showed you in that slide previously. Big mountain, but small steps. Imagine yourself doing it. So a visual. And then on to the next, which is next smallest step. Take your time. Be patient. It's about steps. It's about very small steps. When we make the big step, we look at the what, and that's what we go for. We're not so successful. So, and lastly, how will I know when I'm there? Well, there are we have ways that we work with people that they are able to see the goals they set and how they are achieving it. But I think anyone can do this if you keep notes. See what your next goal is, the next small goal, and when you reach it, there you go. You've reached it, and then you go to the next one. So what's next? Well, this is you'll need to explore your why. Okay. That is your purpose. And then from that will come an approach which involves Kaizen, small steps, and the rest of this year, which is about how. Again, the next one is going to be a presentation on 10 steps 10 steps to reaching healthy longevity. And each one we'll explore. Now, some may be more important to you than another after you've explored your why and explored where you are. You know, where am I within the 5 pillars? Strong here, not so strong here. So that gives you, the route that you need to go and what sort of things that you need to work on. And what can you work on it? Well, there's what we're giving you, but the team there at your community in Blue Star, they're there to help also. So if it's physical strength, intellectual strength, social connection, we'll know, and that's what we're going to work on. So there's the rest of this year, this is what we're going to do. Again, the next one is about 10 tips. And then after that, we're going to have 4 sessions on basically a course on resilience. How do you achieve resilience? Because remember that curve. When life throws you a curveball, that's when we can get knocked off and start the decline. But when we have resilience, we can bounce back. Oddly enough, it's not odd at all. So resilience comes from a strong lifestyle. It comes from the things that are within the 5 pillars, and it involves some other things that we will explore with you. Because developing resilience is basically a major part of the how of achieving what you want. So this is it's all good news for us that we know it's lifestyle is the major determinant. There are choices. We can make those choices. You're living in a place where you have support to do that. We're working with you to make sure you're aware of what is possible and guide you in you crafting your journey, because you have to craft it. And again, remember, starting with that why. Remember, you're like an iceberg. You're still mostly potential in spite of everything you've achieved in your life. You're still mostly potential. And tapping into that is about, again, exploring your core, your purpose, and working to discover where you are, what you need to do, come this year to all of our presentations to build that approach, that how to achieve healthy longevity, which we all want. So there it is. This year is 2023, and the theme is the how of healthy longevity. And we're going to deliver on that, folks. And I'm here for questions.
So Kai, can I ask a couple before we get started?
Sure.
Okay. So for all of our Trilogy members that are participating today, each month, a couple of us here from our office put out what we call an MTL monthly, which is targeted directly to our communities, talking about what's coming up in the month. So in December, when we were filming January, I made a commitment to say, look, I don't know what your intentions are, but I'm going to start out the year with dry January, which seems really counterintuitive if you know our Trilogy members pretty well. They spend a lot of time in their social connection environment enjoying adult beverages, so that they were probably all going, yeah, whatever. Well, out of the gate, I wasn't strong, Trilogy. I got to tell you, a couple of days went by and I'm like, to your point, Kai, I'm not really quite sure if I was ready for that really big step. But what I was able to do over a few days is really peel it back a little bit and say, let's kind of talk through, can I go 1 day? Can I go 2 days? Can I go 3 days? By the third day, I felt so much better. And it's hard to describe better, but I just like my outlook was clear and just certain things. So then I thought, well, I'm going to go back and have a glass of wine the next day and see what happens. And sure enough, the following morning when I woke up, I wasn't as clear. And I'm like, okay. So kind of hitting the stop and go a little bit kind of helps you look introspectively at yourself and say, there might be something to this. And then I was with a member of our team one day and she said, Sarah, I can't do dry January, but I can do damp January. And I said, I get it. And so believe it or not, if the president of our company is on this line, he and I challenged each other to be able to do this in January. But it's just one of those things when we talk about Kaizen, as I was looking at that and I hear it over and over and over again, I'm like, okay, so I got up a step and then I kind of missed a couple steps, but then I just kind of kept going. So I really believe it's totally about just kind of, I wrote down here on my notepad today, just modifying habits sometimes is really, really important.
Excellent,
so as I,
excellent feedback, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, that's just kind of from me personally, which I always try to share with our members so that they know I'm a human being, which I think most of them do. But Kai, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you ask some questions as well.
Yeah, well, first I'm just going to piggyback off that because dry January does seem like such a strong or such a big goal. And so my husband and I are doing a couple weeks. And even that seemed big. And one of my big things, or both of us, is again that social connection, right? You go out and you have a glass of wine or beer with some friends. And so last night I went to join my friends for happy hour and I was like, can I do this? And I like mules, like vodka mules or gin mules. And so I just had ginger beer with lime and seltzer water, and it was really good. And that small step, like you said, just make me feel good and just doing those small things. So I like that idea of damp January or damp 2023,
Absolutely.
modifying and doing just a little bit. So I do appreciate you sharing that. And
that's fantastic, both of you giving that. So did you ask yourself why you were doing it? Okay, I don't want to be drinking so much. Why? Because we're probably reading that we lose neurons when we drink a lot and that our cognitive function is ultimately at risk. We're finding out more and more. So that was a good reason you wanted to do it. And agree. I agree. A whole month when you're a regular social person and there's lubrication involved. That's a lot. That's a lot. And you don't want to take away from the social engagement that comes. That's something you want. And
Mhm.
so you don't want to avoid it because you don't want to drink. So a nice modification like you did, Kai, or just being realistic about it, I think is much better. And you can get there. And I won't be surprised if the rest of your year doesn't look a little different also.
Probably so.
Yeah, and I love, Sarah, how you connected it to how you were feeling. Same,
Mhm.
same with me. All right, so the first question I have, you talked a lot, or not a lot, but a focus on where I am now. And I know I can do it. Is sometimes I say, well, I used to do this, whether it's talking about, physical health or, um, anything else. And any, I guess, advice it's okay to have that thought, but then how do I focus on the positive things I can do, and then also being, like you said, truthful of where I am now, and then taking a step forward, because sometimes it's hard to get that negative thought out that, well, I used to be able to do this, or I used to, you know do something different. So any advice for that, and I'll get back to
Sure.
the
And
chats.
I think exploring the why helps guide you in that process, because when you explore the why, you there it or say it's by reviewing your bucket list or what you want to do in your bucket list. And so that is a guide to show you where your focus should be, or to assess. Okay, say I want to travel. Okay, I want to be healthy, have a healthy longevity because I want to travel. Why? I want to experience things in the world. You learn a lot when you travel. It's a lot of fun, and all that. What do you need to travel? You need physical ability. You need maybe social support. You don't want to travel alone. You want to travel with people. You need cognitive ability. You need flexibility in your cognitive, because you go into a foreign airport, you go into a foreign country, there's different languages. How do you communicate? And, just navigating a world that's not our own, the one that we're used to navigating, that itself is a challenge. I love it because of that also, but it can be daunting. And how does it fit into the purpose of your life? So what I'm saying is that once you explore that why, then you determine, what do I need to achieve the why, or to achieve what I want to achieve, and am I there now? And if you're not, that's where your focus can be. And with that, you have resources at the community. We're going to be supplying your resources with articles and these presentations. And so you can focus like a laser on those areas that you will need to achieve what you want to achieve, that's consistent with your why. And that'll be the how, or what you want to achieve. So why, how, what.
Love it. Thank you. A next question is, any helpful tips for someone who has lost their spouse in the past year, especially after being together for nearly 50 years and having been working on staying healthy together and happy together?
Very, very difficult time. And it can come not only with the loss of your spouse, but the loss of many other things, like your social circle. So you can become isolated. First of all, grieving is appropriate. Take time to grieve. There's no limit on grieving. There's no limit as to how long it takes. Kai and I have a good friend who's just written a book, uh, Life Reconstructed, right, Kai?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by Teresa Beshwaite, and she lost her husband, so she knows what she's talking about. And she talks about um, the fact that she had to allow herself to grieve and realize that the process probably never ends, but that it becomes less a major part of your life, and it's always there. But it's also consistent with um, uh, wanting to stay engaged in life. Doesn't have to be maybe with another partner, or it doesn't have to be anything particular, but to grieve, but to the extent you can, usually not in the beginning, but grieve with others, so groups, so that you become stay social around a topic that's important to all of you. That's very important. And then to move on to being in time, it happens. And there's no timetable for this. No timetable. You've had a major blow, And probably the worst thing that can happen from this is that you go into a cocoon and get isolated and lonely. Allow yourself to grieve, however that is, but realize that you cannot stay in the cocoon. Reach out to others who are ready to share that with you. And again, this book, I reviewed it for her, and I'll tell you, it's but there are others out there on grieving, and so take the time to get a little read a bit about it. It'll be very comforting to see how other people are going through what you're going through. Good luck, because this is a very, very difficult time.
Yeah. The other thing is, I'm not sure where this member is from, but in several of our communities, we actually have grief support groups, which can really be helpful, because this is a road that most of us we don't navigate it more than once with a spouse. And as Dr. Landry said, it's a very, very hard blow. So maybe take a look and see if there isn't a grief support group within your community, or if you're not there, if you're not comfortable in that environment. I know that there's a lot of them in cities where they have appropriate support too, because and to your point, Dr. Landry, it's whatever your particular timetable is.
Exactly.
Yep.
And everybody grieves differently, and some people don't want to be with people for at least a little while, and that's necessary. But ultimately, the road to a continued healthy life is a re-engagement in life.
Right.
And Teresa, actually, the author of the book, she had recommended, I'd asked her for some resources for some other communities, and Soaring Spirits is a great website that you can take a look at for some grieving resources. SoaringSpirits.org.
Thanks, guys. And I think she has a bunch of others too in the book. So, but there are others out there. But we know this one very well. We know Teresa very well. We went through the grieving process with her, and so I learned a lot about grieving by being at least observing her journey, and so that's very personal to me. So, but again, there is no timetable, there is no formula, but re-engagement is at the end of the journey.
Thank you for that. And kind of switching gears a little bit, another couple questions about scheduling, just seeing where they could see the schedule for the next presentation, one or two presentations. And then someone asked, I think you had mentioned at the beginning where they can find the past presentations. So if you could just kind of speak to that again, Sarah.
I will. I had to hop up and grab if all of our community members have our MTL calendar. If you haven't picked it up yet, it's available at your club. But as you flip through each month, Dr. Landry's presentations are noted in here. So at least that you'll know the date. The time varies slightly by time zone. But he and I have an appointment to do this again with Kai on April the 15th. So in between, Dr. Landry does print and publish articles for us that comes out in your MTL monthly. And we will actually go back and bring up all of the recordings that we've done last year, and we'll put it in everybody's newsletters for this year, because sometimes it kind of gets buried in the news section. But if you don't have your calendar, go back and grab your MTL calendar, and all of the dates are listed here. Plus, I'll ask our team to put all of the dates in a news post. So again, we love the fact that you're asking questions, because this is part of our intellectual enrichment pillar that Roger, Kai, and I try to do as much as we possibly can. So I hope that helps you. But if not, we'll also get it into your newsletters for you.
Great. And the previous ones are on
they're on the website as well, but we'll throw them all into the newsletters this coming week as well.
Okay. Wonderful. And then the name of Teresa's book is called Life Reconstructed. And her last name is spelled Beshwate. Any other questions? We just have a few more minutes.
So I've got
I have a great voice, so let's do it.
Let's see.
I want to restate that everything that's happening this year is according to the theme. So you'll be hearing this. We've pursued the why, but the rest of the year is about the how to get to whatever your what is. And that what should be consistent with your why, of course. So probably that little circle thing that Simon Sinek uses and you use, Sarah, will be repeating that. The why, the how, the what.
Perfect.
So we do have one more why question. I think it's a powerful one. Finding your why is easier said than done. Why do you think finding the why is not easy for many people?
I think it's because we're used to concentrating on the what, what we want to achieve. It sounds like a good idea. It's what I want. I think that we've been conditioned to focus there. But the why is it's like answering a child's multiple why questions. It can be difficult. Because eventually you get to a why as a parent, Guy, of a young lady. There's a time when you shrug your shoulders when, and that's kind of difficult for a parent and for a child to take. What do you mean you don't know? So I think it's introspection, which many of us don't take a lot of time to do. I think that it's, mindfulness is what we've been talking a lot about all last year. And you talked about it, Sarah, about your intention, living intentionally. That's being mindful. And to be mindful is to shut off the racing thoughts, the chattering mind that we have that tends to take us out to things we need to do or things we should have done or whatever. And to be mindful is to be present. And that is the place where I think you're more likely to find your why. And it's and you may not get it in one session. You may answer one why, and then be ready to answer the why for that the next time. You'll eventually get to a place that is clearly your why, the thing that will get you out of bed, that will keep you coming to these sessions, that will keep you engaged in growing in all the pillars, but particularly the ones where you need a particular attention in order to get the resilience, in order to get the health and the strength and the holistic enrichment that will get you where you want to go. So basically, it is difficult. I acknowledge it. Be patient, be mindful, be truthful, be introspective. And if it takes a week, a month, whatever, if it takes the whole year to find it, that's okay. You'd be better off though if as you travel this year, you're closer to what your why is, or you're there, because it makes all the difference. As I said, it's the fuel that will get you through the hows and all the work to get you where you want to be.
Great answer. Yeah. And I think that mindfulness, it really connects to how you're feeling, right? That happiness or joy or, kind of how you're feeling in the moment when there's so many things going on.
It's like taking a shower. I guess I'm more mindful. A lot of things come to me when I'm taking a shower, but it could be a walk in the woods. It could be with a pet. It could be when we're not, rushing around or consumed with problems that we have. When we can, anything that can quiet your mind. You're an artist, you're doing your work. You're not thinking about things, but frequently things come to you. Einstein said the greatest breakthroughs that he had was not when he was thinking about something. It's when he was present and had an open mind.
Yeah. So we have two more questions that just popped up. Should I read them? We got another minute or two? Okay.
We do.
So I'll read both these questions just because one might align with an answer for the other one. Anyway, my spouse has changed so much since being diagnosed with so many ailments, and more always pop up. It is sometimes hard to keep my spirits up and theirs. Any small steps you would recommend? And the next question, another person, she said, is journaling helpful for us to find our why? So 2 different questions, but I just asked them together.
What was the first part of the second question?
It was just, is journaling helpful for us to find our why?
Yes. Okay. Well, so the first question, it has to. I think that life does throw us curveballs. Life isn't for sissies. You've heard all the things. No one gets out alive. All of these things that realize that life can be very, very difficult. And we needn't feel like a victim from it, because everyone is going to go through their own curveballs, so to speak. But something that can be very helpful, and I think that most of us, even some who had never experienced this before, COVID and the pandemic so disrupted our lives that it caused us to be resilient in some way and to respond to it in some way. There could be some lessons there, but one of them is gratitude. I know that many people I spoke to, even though their lives were significantly disrupted, they wanted to focus on what they were still thankful for, what they were grateful for, that what was still in their lives, that was a very positive thing, despite all the negatives. We certainly don't want the negatives. It makes for a lower quality of life, but we are what we focus on. And if we focus on the disease and the pain, and there's research on pain, that when we focus on it, pain is worse. If we don't focus on it, sometimes there's no experience of pain. And it's the same with emotional pain, as well as physical pain. So gratitude is a gratitude journal is a great thing to do, so that every day you think, what was positive about today, or even when we get up in the morning, what is positive in my life? And just identifying what that is, however small it might be, it makes us to be more focused, have a mindset that's more focused on the positive, and that is what is a major point of resilience. And from that sometimes can come stronger immune system, stronger fighting disease, just from having a positive attitude. You heard I said those people who are half full live 7.5 years longer, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And so trying to find what you're grateful for, that little bit of positivity that may be surrounded by negative things, but as that's your focus, you'll find that stimulates you every day. It keeps you going, and even though the going can be very rough. Now, journaling, I think, is an excellent idea to find your why. Probably free thinking, a stream of consciousness type of thing can be very helpful. Like, what am I thinking right now, and just write it down, or planning it. But if you journal to make it a grammatical masterpiece, that's probably not going to be so helpful. But journaling, even doodling, or even just writing things that pop right into your head, that can be a way to getting closer to your why. If you give yourself a question like we gave here, sample questions, your eulogy or that, and journal what your answer is, that can be extremely helpful. And then journaling during this process to track your successes. What I have succeeded in doing. I took this step, and now I'm on to the next one. That is also, as we said, an important way for us to continue the journey, to know that we're hitting the mark, so to speak. Hope that helps.
Sorry, I was on mute. Love both those answers. So I'm going to react with the heart. And I think we're at our time. I don't see any other questions. So if people want to join me in adding reactions on how you felt about this presentation, go right ahead, just because it's fun.
I'm getting clapped. Forgive me for my losing my voice, but we got through it. And Kai, thank you for your help and your kindness.
Yeah. And for our Trilogy members that are still on the line, first of all, thank you so much for joining us in our journey for 2023. Because this is, out of all the things that I have the pleasure of doing, this is one of my favorite ways to spend my Saturday. And I do want to let some of our Trilogy members know, and I know, Dr. Landry, this is probably going to get me in a little bit of trouble, but I know that you come to Arizona on your annual trip, always out here in February. And so Dr. Landry, in the month of February, in fact, February the 11th, which is a Saturday, thinking about our working folks, Dr. Landry is going to be in person at Vistancia on the 11th. So it'll be fun. Roger and I have worked together now for a couple of years, and I'm looking forward to saying hello in person. But if any of our Arizona members from either Verde River or Encanterra want to join us at Vistancia on Saturday the 11th, you are more than welcome to join us. Vistancia is located out in Peoria, Arizona, and Dr. Landry is just going to be able to hop off the freeway and hopefully get in there right by our new nuclear plant that we got going on there, our chip plant. So I want to thank everybody again for joining us again. I just double checked my calendar to make sure I'm right. And our next virtual live stream will be on April the 15th, which is a Saturday. But again, if you're in Arizona, especially for our Vistancia members, if you would like to join us on February the 11th and meet with Dr. Landry in person, that would be great. And we are actually going to be going through Dr. Landry's book, Live Long, Die Short. So it'll be a really fabulous Saturday to spend some time together. So thanks to everybody who joined us today, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.